It's been 37 years since we were first introduced to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. About time we got some supernatural s'mores. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be ranking the 4 films of the Ghostbusters franchise as part of my franchise Rankography series. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. So what is a Rankography exactly? Well, it's my ranking of a filmography, whether that be a director's output, an actor's appearances, or even an entire franchise. My rankographies are based on personal preference, and I rank movies according to how much I enjoyed them rather than any sort of specific technical merit or attribute. Remember, this is just my ranking, not the ranking, so be sure to post your own personal ranking of the Ghostbusters franchise in the comments below. Ghostbusters is a franchise I've enjoyed since I was a little kid. For the majority of my life, there were only 2 films, plus the cartoon, but I watched those movies a lot growing up. Nowadays, I certainly wouldn't consider them to be horror movies, but they were kinda spooky as a kid, and I loved that. I was interested in horror and horror-tinged movies and shows from a pretty young age, and I was especially fascinated by the concept of paranormal investigation. So it comes as no surprise that I was drawn to this franchise at a young age. I've already reviewed all 4 of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below and also link them up in the cards as we go along. Alright, let's get this rankography started. Coming in at number 4, Ghostbusters, the 2016 reboot. So I really went back and forth on this pick, because my 2 lowest Ghostbusters films are about equal in my mind, just for different reasons. But I decided to put the reboot in the number 4 spot, and I have a feeling that that's a pretty common placement for it. I do want to say, though, that I don't hate this movie. Even though it's last in the ranking for me, I still sorta like it. It's not great or anything, but it's entertaining and kind of just one of those movies that I don't mind having on. It's not one that I ever really actively seek out, but if it's on TV or somebody else wants to watch it, I don't have a bad time with it, and as a reboot, it's honestly okay. This is a film that was completely enveloped by controversy when it came out, and for months and months before it ever came out. It was viciously and toxically maligned for no real reason other than the fact that many people were upset that it existed. I think a lot of people would have rather had a Ghostbusters 3. And while I would have preferred a 3rd film over this one too, I thought this was reasonably entertaining. The villain and the story are a little underdeveloped, but it does pose some interesting supernatural concepts with the ley lines and the ghostly plane. The humor is really hit or miss for me, mostly just because I'm not a huge fan of the improv-style comedy used here. But I do really like the characters, specifically the 4 Ghostbusters. They're a fun group with some good chemistry and character dynamics, and I think there's a nice distinction between them and the original Ghostbusters. Coming in at number 3, Ghostbusters II. This movie is a weird one for me, even within this strange franchise. For years, I've gone back and forth on how I actually feel about it, but I've come to accept that my feelings for this one are largely nostalgia-based. Nostalgia for watching it as a kid, but also nostalgia for the franchise in general, because this film and the first are so closely linked in my mind. Ghostbusters 2 is set only 5 years after the original movie, yet somehow the city has inexplicably turned against the Ghostbusters again, not believing in their capabilities. It's a frustrating setup, made all the more frustrating by a ghostly portrait threat and the incredibly annoying Janisch. It's not a super uncommon thing, but this sequel is very much a rehash of the original movie. There are some minor changes to the story and a few alterations to the character dynamics, but really, this is pretty much another telling of Ghostbusters. From Dana's ghostly problem, all the way to a giant supernatural being stomping its way through New York City. Everything's familiar, which can be good for the nostalgia side, but does end up making everything feel a bit too predictable. If you've seen the original movie, this one gets a little repetitive, and it's certainly less interesting and less charming as a result. But there's still plenty of fun to be had here, and this movie's got some extremely memorable moments, some of which rival those in the original film. Things like the Slime River, the Ghostly Train, and of course, Libby. Right, Ziggy? Yo. Coming in at number 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife. So I can't say that this placement really surprises me. Before I even watched this movie, I kinda suspected it would end up in the slot. I just didn't know if it would be closer to the number 1 spot or to the number 3 spot. And I'm happy to say that it's closer to number 1. This is a very fun, nostalgia-fueled film that I think was able to capture the tone of the original movie remarkably well. It's got that occasionally creepy, fun sci-fi vibe down, and certainly leans into all the expected nostalgia. But luckily, this movie doesn't come across as just fan service. Sure, we've got cameos, and the Ectomobile, and even the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but these things don't just pop up for the sake of popping up. There's actual story and plot reasons behind it all. Some of it may be a little overly convenient at times, but hey, that's always been a part of Ghostbusters. Unlike the 2016 film, this movie is very much a sequel to the original films. It continues the story, and on paper, it technically serves as a Ghostbusters 3, but in practice, it's more of a Ghostbusters The Next Generation. It's a revival for the new era that directly ties itself to the past. In fact, it more than just ties, it very blatantly transposes plot elements directly from the original film. It makes sense within the story's logic, and it's a well-done bit of nostalgia, but it does close the film on perhaps too familiar of a note. But even with that familiarity, this was an incredibly enjoyable sequel that manages to deliver a little bit of everything in order to satisfyingly merge old and new to revive the supernatural franchise. Coming in at number 1, Ghostbusters, the 1984 original. Well, who else are you gonna call as number 1? The original Ghostbusters is so bizarre. It's a very strange mix of comedy, sci-fi, romance, and a little bit of horror that really had no business becoming an internationally recognized cultural phenomenon. But it did, and I'm glad, because this is an exceptionally enjoyable movie. That said, as much as I like it, and as much nostalgia as I have for it, I've never considered myself to be a super fan. And I definitely think there are issues with this movie. Ones that stick out to me every time I watch it, even despite all the nostalgia. After a fun and breezy first act, and part of the second act, the pacing grinds to a halt, and the story gets very bizarrely convoluted, especially as things move towards the more interdimensional god side of the story. In spite of some issues I have with the storyline though, it's the premise that's always grabbed me. The Ghostbusters actually ghost busting is by far my favorite aspect of this film. Even as a kid, watching their process was always so interesting to me. The action and proton packs and all of that was fun, but I really liked the kind of pseudoscience elements of it, like the traps and the bigger storage facility. There was just so much thought and creativity put into designing this world, and this business. And then on top of that, we've got the cast, and this extremely memorable set of characters. This movie is supremely quotable, and really everything about it is in the consciousness and lexicon of pop culture now. It's all so incredibly iconic. The theme song, the Ectomobile, and of course my personal favorite, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Alright, so that's my rankography of the Ghostbusters franchise. 4 movies, 2 timelines, and an awful lot of ectoplasm. What does your ranking look like? I'd love to see some reasoning for your order, so be sure to post it in the comments below. Remember, I've already reviewed all 4 of these movies, so you can check those videos out if you want some more in-depth discussion of each, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. And if you're interested in buying any of these movies, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this rankography, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies. The way life should be.